So the next day, dawn's bright and clear. Janie is in the bedroom she's been in since she was a little girl. Quinn's at the hotel. Carol is waking up. Probably Val gets up before you, right? She's up before dawn to milk the chickens or whatever the hell it is she does on this farm. And you're vegan. Okay, so vegan, so no eggs for you.
No.
Oh. How much does it bother you when she scrambles up the eggs? Just that thick, humid smell of it.
I mean, to be honest, that's fine, considering I've seen her do far worse to even more lively things. And that's the thing I can't stomach, but at least this is just, I can take someone scrambling an egg, even if it's not entirely my scene.
Well, she comes up, brings you coffee and oatmeal in bed and sits down. She's like, you got in late last night. How's this case treating you?
I don't know, Val. I don't know. It's a combination of maybe it's not such a big deal, but then there's just some stuff going on up that Mesa. Don't reckon it's good. No, I don't reckon it's good at all.
I've long felt that the Mesa was a distortion of the nature of the land. You keep me apprised of this. It's not good to have these unhealthy spots. It was like that thing I got on my shoulder, remember? And we had to go to the doctor and get it cut out. Sometimes there's no answer but the knife.
Give her a bit of a look, and then I say, ever heard of any myths or legends of some winged lady hanging out in those mountains? Big bird wing arms, that sort of thing.
Most of the legends around that area are about a satanic priest. He was a Catholic priest, but also a Satanist, who came to the New World fleeing the Inquisition in Spain long ago, like pre-United States times. And, how'd the story go? Usual devil worshipper stuff, human sacrifices. It seemed pretty solid.
Huh. Well, that is not a good story.
Yeah, it doesn't really have a stirring conclusion, but, that's folklore. Well, that's folkloric research for you. If you ask, and I don't even know this guy's name, but probably you would find several people who've got, one person will have the righteous ending where he's strung up by the townsfolk, and another will have the nihilistic ending where he never gets his comeuppance, and, probably one or two people, if you get some drinks in them, will have, like, the sexy ending. You know how that goes. And she kind of tousles your hair and gives you that smirk.
I kind of smile a little, after all. A touch isn't so bad in the morning. It's just, I'm distracted. I'm trying to recall something. First of all, knowing the things I do know. How much do I know is real versus bullshit when it comes to good old Satanists?
There are definitely people who 100% believe they are worshiping the devil and will kill you. I mean, ask Quinn. In your experience, the genuine occult stuff you've interacted with has not been anything as easily understood as rebel angel flung from heaven by an angry god. It's always been more staticky conceptually. You have heard more than once the assertion that what people think are demons are some kind of extra physical con artists who just tell the people what they want to hear. You know, if you're expecting to talk to Astaroth the Soul Raiser, they'll say, I am Astaroth the Soul Raiser, but I will send your soul to hell. And if you want to talk to your Uncle Steve, they're like, hey, it's me, Uncle Steve. Don't worry, kid, because soon you'll be rich and heaven is nice.
The second thing I want to think about is the priest. One of the individuals who'd had a little adventure.
Raymond Carderas, or Ramon Carderas.
Ramon, wasn't his deal, he was a priest, and then after the lightning strike, he swore off religion or something like that?
After the lightning strike, he swore, well, you could go find him. You could go pick up Barbara and the gang and go. I mean, it's not hard for you to locate. He is, a cursory examination. He wants to be findable online. He is preaching and providing pastoral care at the consecrated Chapel of Jesus Christ Savior in Anthony, right outside of El Paso. He's been there since the year 2000.
Could actually be an interesting lead. I'll look to Val as I start getting out of bed, getting properly dressed, and I just say, I know you wanted me to look into this for your own sake. Make sure the farm and all the land around here is okay. So I don't know, you got any hunches? Lightning strikes that make people act funny, aka like they're not themselves. And I give her a look knowing that she knows what I'm implying. The question is, are these travelers, or joyriders if you will, are they different spirits? The same spirit? And is it all just benign fun or something worse?
It could be anything. I am not... sky magic is very difficult for me. And you do know this because you had... the two of you had a really bad scene with a really bad neighbor. And after it became intractable and intolerable, she went to their land and, performed a sacrifice, and exactly 7 days later to the minute, their house got struck by lightning. So, she can do it, but she does not like to do it.
I'm not gonna come by Val and ask you to do anything, don't worry. I'm thinking of following a few more leads, and then, I don't know, I'm thinking at some point we need to go to the Mesa and just have a look.
Oh yeah, well, be careful there. But you can take care of yourself. Are you taking your gun with you?
Yeah, I reckon that's a good idea.
I don't know if it makes me feel better or worse, but I know you're very responsible with it.
Thanks, Val. I do try. Alright, well, I'm gonna head out, see if I can gather the troops.
So yeah, the two of you probably wind up in Val's pickup truck, which has the extended cab, and Hugo's do you want to do Hugo's truck, or do you want to do who are you gonna, basically whoever you pick up first, they're gonna drive their car. So it's either Barbara's Jeep with all the geology junk, or Hugo's pickup with the shotgun rack.
Probably Barbara, I reckon, considering she's kind of the client. Indirectly.
Her name is on those checks. So, yep, you go pick up Barbara, and, you're probably going to go get Janie. She's probably going to go get Hugo and Quinn. So, where are you are you going to tell her to meet you at Pastor Carderas' church, or what?
You know what? Why not? I reckon we were all initially saying maybe it's time to get to the end of this bread trail, and that's in El Paso, right? So maybe one more stop before El Paso won't hurt. So I will, inform the others when we, generally just say, got a hunch, let's follow this lead. We were heading to El Paso anyway, weren't we?
Were you?
Well, because isn't that where where she was actually found?
That's where Quid's store is, yes. And that's where Janie returned to herself. All right. Anybody have anything they want to ask anyone, or should we just dive right in to Father Carderas' church? So, yeah, you pull up around the same time. You let yourselves in. I got a picture of Father Carderas, who is not super impressive. You've heard the phrase, Father what a waste? No one's saying that about him. But when you meet him, he is not in that Catholic regalia. There's Val next to him, by the way. He is instead in a Protestant, typical short sleeve collared shirt and pants, and he and a couple little old ladies are making what looks like hundreds of peanut butter sandwiches, and they've got this little assembly line where they make the sandwich and then another and hand it over, and the woman bags it and then hands it over, and another woman puts that in a bag of chips and a bottle of water in a paper bag and then puts that on a little tray.
Just before we step in, I say to Quinn, are you feeling a little better this morning?
You can ask, but I don't think you can tell in Quinn's eyes that it was not steady sleep. And for no reason of magical importance, it's just a very stressful situation. The way that Janie's changing back to her square self, the way that you and several others have immediately picked up on something that I may or may not have allegedly done, makes it kind of hard to sleep generally. And then the magical bit also piled up on top of that. So, you asked that question, and just being Quinn, I have to look at you with that thanks for being polite, but really kind of face. That I appreciate the instinct, but I will say, however, that attitude and the lack of sleep has not stopped me from looking utterly amazing. Swapped out yesterday's outfit. Now it is a teal jacket that I have accented with a floral cravat that's very puffy. Same black gloves, different matching bracelets, but the real kicker is that there is a collar pin made of amethysts with a chain in front of it. And it's that kind of accessory that you have to be real brave to pull off, or to attempt, and real cool to actually pull off.
Carol, on the other hand, is wearing the exact same outfit.
It's a black collared shirt. And Hugo has got on his flannel shirt with the sleeves torn off.
He loves that flannel shirt.
He's got the guns.
Just before I'm about to turn to JD, I just quickly filling Quinn on why I thought this was a place to come, filling him in on the myth that I have heard from Val.
Are you going to tell Janie about the Satanists?
No. I'm going to go to JD and say, hey, how was your rest? Sorry, I just thought it was worthwhile talking to one of the other individuals who'd had something weird happen to them just on the way to, El Paso.
Yeah, sure. No, it's, I tried to avoid questions last night from my parents, and I don't know, they had too many questions. All I wanted to do was be left alone, so I kind of barricaded myself in my room and turned the music up really loud and just tried to get some sleep. I don't know if it was restful, but, here I am, I guess.
No, I dig it. Sometimes music is the best form of therapy. At least in my opinion. I used to play long ago.
Yeah, I went and found some of Mississippi Mudhen's collection just to give it another chance. I don't know if it's bad enough to warrant throwing mud at them. I'm also not sure it's really my jam, but I
actually laugh quite genuinely at that, saying, I'm glad to see you're putting on a good face.
I mean, what else am I supposed to do in this situation, right?
I wouldn't know.
As you enter, Father Carderas, little squints and comes over. He's like, can I help you?
Father. Yes? Or is it father? I always forget.
If you wish, if that's what makes you comfortable. I'm sort of in the middle of something here, if you'd like.
Oh, I understand. I just wanted to ask you one quick little thing. We're just passing through the neighborhood. Do you remember what happened a few years back with yourself and a certain Thunderhead Mesa?
That's not a simple question. I'll tell you all about it if you help me pack some lunches. And Hugo just is like, yeah, sure. He's like, oh, wash your hands, everybody. You got those, no gloves? Okay, we'll wash real careful, get under your nails and whatnot. So, and the two little old ladies are like, oh, hi, sweetie. And he's like, hey. He's like, what are we doing here? He's like, so he's turning on the charm, and Barbara comes up and is like, yeah, well, I'm a geologist, and I've found some magnetic anomalies centered around Thunderhead Mesa. And he's like, oh, does that have anything to do with why lightning strikes it so often? And she's like, well, I don't know that it strikes the Mesa statistically more often than anywhere else. We get a lot of lightning strikes in this region, but it certainly hits more people there than anywhere else. And he's like, well, I'd like to tell you that I remember getting hit by lightning, but in all honesty, it's fairly vague. But what do you want to know?
Some people say that after the incident, the nature of your faith changed. Is that true?
That is entirely accurate. I stopped making excuses. That's the long and the short of it. And if I say I was changed by the Holy Spirit, that makes me sound deranged, and it does not truly communicate what I felt and what I believe. I believe the Holy Spirit of the Lord is everywhere, speaking to us all the time. But on that day, the voice through nature became very loud, and I was lifted up out of a narrow world of small town gossip and little problems. And I before that, I had been very afraid of doing the wrong thing. And after that day, I felt the freedom to do the right thing.
And what is the right thing, in your view?
And he points to the table and he's like, I'm feeding the poor. I'm ministering to the forgotten, the lost, those who have been neglected by the hand of man and society, and who have little to rely on other than the kindness of the Lord. And I want to be the means by which the Lord's kindness enters their lives. Are you religious, sir?
It's complicated.
Spiritual, then.
There's definitely something out there.
The problem spiritual individuals run into is that they have nobody to check against, to determine, to compare whether what they are experiencing or deciding or perceiving really makes sense or is perhaps just a reflection of their own desires or impulses.
So you think the incident that happened to you was sort of like God coming down and... Well, what happened exactly? Did he speak to you and take your body? Did an angel, perhaps?
Wouldn't say God took my body. That's a rather leading way to phrase it. But there was there was a sense of presence, if I'm honest about it. I felt like something had joined with me or was amplifying me. And it was a very different, it was an altered state of consciousness, different from the everyday way that we conduct our lives. For some time, I did things that, in retrospect, don't make sense. I remember digging under this rock frantically. It's like in the Old Testament, when the prophet Ezekiel ate a scroll because the Lord demanded it. And there are these actions described, say, in Revelations that are... They're not the logic of the world of things, but a symbolic logic of a world that can only suggest through the physical. Oh, I have to go get more jelly. You can follow him if you want.
I will, because this is curious to me, so I'll skip along next to him. Sorry, Father. You talked about digging under a rock?
Yeah. Have we met?
I don't know.
Yes.
I'll be totally honest. I've lost about a week of time.
Oh my.
I was struck on Thunderhead Mesa about a week ago.
Oh my.
And I'll lean down and lift up, I'll pull up my legging and I'll show him the Lichtenberg scars.
Well, that looks familiar, he says, and, undoes his collar, and you can see down his neck and chest.
Yeah, it does.
You came here. Are you all right?
I'm getting there. I'm trying to retrace my steps and figure out what I did.
We gave you a sandwich.
Oh, great. Thank you. When did I come here exactly?
Yeah, this would be on day 3. And what he tells you about what you did, he's like, yeah, we did not have a very long conversation. Night was falling. It was a very busy night at the food bank. And so the idea that you had been lightning struck makes a lot of sense because you did seem distractible, agitated. I was going to try and steer you gently towards maybe a little bit of psychological counseling. You were trying to show me something very important. You kept saying I had to go with you to find this thing, but you weren't very clear on what it was. You just said that I'd know it when I saw it, and so would you. And when I refused to leave my duties, you left.
What was I wearing? What did I look like?
Oh, it's hard to... You were quite dirty. Yes, very dirty indeed. I can't really remember what you were in. The hiking boots were pretty good quality. I remember that. When it has become my habit when people enter to look at the shoes, because a lot of people who come through are migrants or refugees and have walked a long distance, and a lot of them suffer because their shoes either fall apart or were never in very good condition. But you had good shoes that looked like they fit. You were just very, very dirty, especially the arms and hands. I think I strongly encouraged you to wash up before eating.
Okay, so the reason I was asking about you digging under the rock, just before, the day before I would have shown up here, I apparently went and bought a shovel and ventured into the wilderness, presumably with a shovel. I'm guessing to dig. I don't have the shovel anymore. It's anybody's guess what happened to it. Do you know, what was it? Just random digging, or
No, there was a you know that chess piece that moves irregular, the little horsey one, the knight. The rock looked a little bit like, not very much like that. It was a natural formation, but it looked a little bit like a knight in chess. That was the one I was digging on.
Does that ring a bell for me? Can I remember a rock that looks like that?
As soon as he says, looks like a horse head, you're like, yeah, I thought that it looked a little more like those old Roman centurion helmets with the big fan. Or maybe a seahorse, but you're like, oh yeah, I can see it.
I kind of give Barbara a bit of a look, and I just say, any natural geographical locations people think looks like a horse or a...
No, I mean, there's Seahorse Rock, which I guess kind of looks like a horse. She's like, hold on. And she's, going through her phone. It's just pages and pages of photos of rocks. And she's like, oh no, it's not on this one. I'll be out in the car with the good camera.
How far away, just for my knowledge, from here is Seahorse Rock?
It's up north. It's much closer to Thunderhead Mesa than it is to here or to El Paso.
Okay.
Father, that's all been real helpful. I only got one more question. You familiar with some of the history of Thunderhead Mesa? I heard some rumors that a long time ago there were some unsavory sorts that used to hang around there. Don't know how much truth there is in that.
We have all sinned and fallen far from the grace of God. There are always unsavory sorts. You're going to have to narrow it down for me.
I kind of lean forward and say, perhaps those who would be the opposite of your fine faith here, believing in darker forces. Misguided, of course, but...
There are always... there was the story of Father Uberica back in the day, who...
That's the one I heard, yeah.
Priest by day, devil worshipper with a secret family by night. Yeah, those are just myths. Those are just stories they tell to scare kids. I don't think there's anything to it. As
he says that, can I try to suss him out a little? As in, does he truly believe that? Or?
He's saying exactly what he believes. He believes devil worshippers are just deluded people.
I see. Well, thanks. I kind of give then Quinn a bit of a... Any thoughts on your end, Quinn?
I want to be clear that for the entire duration of this conversation, Quinn has managed to make precisely one sandwich. So you asked the question right as Quinn is putting the first piece of bread down on top of the first spread of peanut butter. And before I can answer that question, I don't have to roll to sense when the shitty dead are around. I just know, or do I need to roll every time?
You can ask for a roll.
55 under 60.
As you're looking around, it's like out of the corner of your eye when you look at the priest, you see, instead of the black short sleeves of his shirt, you see black feathers as if his arms were wings. But, that's how Janie looked when you met her.
Like, afterglow isn't the word I want to use, but...
It's faint. It's a residue. You don't want to say like a scar... or a stain. But there aren't a lot of good words for a permanent mark like that.
Then I will communicate this to Carol, as in obscuring the language, of course, in front of the, I presume, sisters of the Holy Order of Sandwich. Explaining that.
They're just encouraging you to go faster. They're like, you're young, keep up, sweetie.
It makes me want to slow down, to be honest. I don't know how you can physically, without appearing like a real jerk, like you're doing it sarcastically, like how slow can I put this sandwich in the bag before I give away the game?
Hugo is just tearing through them. His are a little sloppy, but man, he's got a rhythm.
Man, looks like the very dated reference would be Lucy in the Chocolate Factory, but more like Bender Futurama speed that he's going at. No, I don't have a charitable bone in my body. But to Carol, I will communicate this. Yeah, no, I think you know how it can be when a tourist or a stranger comes along and they'll pretend to be whatever you want them to be so long as it gets them on board. And I'll gesture over towards the priest, and then it's the brushing something off of my shoulder gesture to insinuate that I'm seeing something there, and then looking over to Janie and saying, I don't think things are that far apart all the time.
The priest would like to go pray over you, Janie.
Okay. Why?
Because you've been through a trauma, my child. You've been lost. You have been exposed to some great incalculable force. And I know that this is distressing, that this is frightening. I can only hope that, like as with me, it is a positive force in your life. So, and with that, he, brings you over to the baptismal font and traces the sign of the cross on your forehead and says some stuff in Latin. And he's like, I really should do this in English. He's like, but old habits die hard.
Sure. I'll just nod along.
Are you feeling quite well?
I'm feeling better than I think I have in a while. I know that I've come out of this a little different. Everybody's kind of talking about how I'm not who I was before, like it's a bad thing. And I'm not 100% sure I see it that way.
There was a woman I knew who was in a car accident. Someone was on their cell phone. And she had they called it a minor traumatic brain injury, but its effects on her were fairly severe. She said that in the course of her recovery, she had to think of herself before the accident as an entirely separate person, someone who was now dead. And that former person had been smarter than her and had been more together than her and a better tennis player and a better skier and possessed all these qualities that she had lost in the accident, and only after she was able to say goodbye to those things was she capable of truly pursuing recovery. So it can be very tempting to hold on to the past, but in doing so, we allow the past to hold on to us. I had devoted my life to the Catholic Church, to the point of celibacy, to a future entirely in service to that structure, until I left. And at this point, a woman comes in with, grocery bags, and she's like, oh, good news! I got us some day-old fruit. We can add fruit to the bags. And she comes over and, gives him a kiss. And that's when you notice that he has a wedding ring on his finger.
Seeing this, thinking about him talking about letting go of the past, I can't help but immediately take a look at Hugo and see him just somehow he's gotten a little bit of peanut butter on his arm and he's just kind of laughing at it because, oh my gosh, it's absolutely ridiculous that he could make such a mistake. But the ladies around him are laughing and smiling at it, and he's not letting it faze him, and he's just moving forward. And maybe he's right about letting go of past Janie. But
so, and at this point, Barbara comes in with a camera, and she's like, Seahorse Rock. And yeah, that's the one.
I lean over to Quinn at this point and just say, ask me where you think we should go next.
Carol. Dramatic pause. Finally drop the sandwich into the bag. Still making eye contact with you. Put the bag on the table. Bag drops. Where should we go next?
Can I roll inherent direction?
Sure.
I find myself thinking I'm not entirely sure if going all the way to the far end of El Paso and that last place, is that what we need? Or is the rock the place to go? I don't know myself, so I try and see what my guy tells me. A 70 and 71, I just make it. Yes.
The rock sounds good. I mean, El Paso sounds like, you're thinking about the stuff that Janie, the money and the clothes theft and, this crime shit. You're like, those sound like symptoms. And I don't want to treat the symptoms. I want to unearth the underlying disease.
I think you know that some of the details here are no longer that necessary. I think you can tell Janie that we should go to the rock.
Once Carol has asked me to ask her the question and is saying, okay, well, we should... Once Carol makes that suggestion, I know that the things in my head I can't do in front of these people, Hugo and the Hugoettes, as they're bonding. I'm going to take Carol outside, and then standing arms crossed, say, look, I get the urge, but you remember the hotel room, the dream? Something 80 miles tall, with wings for arms, screaming, free me, and now there are one, and there are two, and I'm sure if we went and looked, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people who all went digging for something in the desert. I don't know, and I'll gesture waving my hand in front of his face, how all this works, but in my experience, deep booming voices demanding you free them, not the kind of thing you want to go digging around. Are you sure we want to go back? How bad do you want to know?
You asked me what I thought. I told you. I think it's the right path for you and Janie, but I can't do any more than that. You need to make that choice for yourself from this point. If you disagree with me, you can. But I'm just saying that's apparently the way we're supposed to go. I don't want to dig anything up, man. If anything, if it is as... Well, I don't know. Is it bad? Is it good? Personally, I'm starting to lean in the bad direction, only because I don't think it's very polite to be taking persons without their permission. I just want to find out what we're dealing with, and then maybe put a stop to it.
It's when Carol says Janie, the name, that my eyes turn over, and I'm just watching her among the priest and among Hugo and Barbara. How different the life that she had versus the fever dream she had. And whether or not Janie's going to stick with, I don't know, whatever this is, making a motion between me and her, I know that there is movement happening there. And, I mean, second to keeping myself safe, the only other thing that I'm really worried about right now is making sure that Janie comes out the end of this tunnel all in one piece. And if that means we gotta go to the fucking rock, then I guess we gotta go to the fucking rock. I'll say that out loud. So finally my eyes trace back to Carol and say, if we gotta go to the fucking rock, then I guess we gotta go to the fucking rock. But promise me, no digging. No one digs. 0 digging.
I have no interest in digging myself.
Barbara was just gonna suggest stopping by her place for some shovels.
That's what I'm talking about. No.
Well, Hugo's like, if you don't want to get your hands dirty, you don't have to dig.
I nod and just quietly say, listen, Quinn. Lead the way. You tell Janie.
All right. You drive all the way back north again. And it is way off on these places, and Barbara's on her cell phone talking to the property owners. So yeah, and it is in fact clouding over. It's not actively raining, but it's got that pressure where you can feel it. And Janie, you almost feel it in your new leg injury. And Quinn, maybe you can feel it in the bump on the back of your head, or maybe it's just that you've got a bump on the back of your head. But when you get out there, the first thing that Barbara does is she gets out this device that has some kind of U-shaped, disc antenna, and starts walking around the rock with it. And Janie, you can see at the bottom of the rock is the kind of collapsible shovel you might be able to buy at a gas station, and it is broken right in half.
Piece of shit. Not worth the money.
And lying next to it is a jack handle. And seeing that, you're like, oh, I vaguely remember after the shovel broke, I went and got that so I could break up the clots before I threw them behind me like a dog digging for a bone.
Oh, God. It's a little weird that things are coming back in pieces. It's unnerving, unsettling. I don't like having pieces of my memory come back like this, but yeah, I'll walk over, pick up the pieces, and...
Whoa, no. The second you step... First of all, you weren't in the room, so I understand you didn't get the rules. But cinematically, if the camera is over your shoulder, like long focus of you staring at the jack, you're going to take one step forward, and then I cut into frame in front of you with a hand up very gently and say, maybe we shouldn't go doing the things that Lightning Bolt Brain thought was a good idea. And I'm not trying to be sarcastic with that voice. It's the way that I show affection is like a kind of cheeky stern, right?
But, and I'll look around to Barbara, and I'll look around at Hugo.
Barbara is engrossed in her instruments, and she's, circling the rock and waving it and lifting it and making little notes and comparing with an app on her phone. And then she's like, and she goes back to her car and is rummaging through assorted notebooks and pulling up a laptop and muttering.
I thought that was why we came here, to figure out what the digging was about.
There's more than one way to suss a place out than digging random holes. I take a puff of my cigarette and I just start looking over the area, walking around. I'm thinking to myself, is there anything I can do? Anything that could just get, something about this place, its history, if there is anything weird here, or if it is just a funny seahorse-shaped rock.
Give me a detective roll. Private investigator roll.
69. That is a failure.
Yeah, and even flip-flopping it isn't going to help you. So you're just, looking around, smoking, and that's when Hugo comes up to him. He's like, looking at the tire tracks, huh? That does look like the Bronco.
Yeah, Janie definitely came out here. I'm just trying to work out Rye. You got any ideas?
This is all baffling to me, man. I could see her coming out here to climb the rock, except that she would do it in like 3 steps and be at the top. She'd just parkour up that shit. And I'm worried that her brain got injured. And this guy in my college, he's older, and he was in the war, right? And one of those shells went off and he got an MTBI, and he's got all these, all these accommodations in class because of his brain damage, and I don't want her to have brain damage, and it doesn't seem like she does, except for terrassing out into the desert to dig under a rock for no reason. But now it turns out the priest, which seems weirdly specific, the odds of one person getting hit by lightning and deciding to go dig at one particular rock, and then another person just getting hit by lightning and deciding to go dig at the exact same rock decades later and you can see that he is putting things together in his head. And he's like, it's like it doesn't make sense, but it also makes too much sense. I gotta go. I'm gonna take Janie and we're gonna go, that's Janie, and you see Hugo coming towards you with a panicky look of determination, and he's like, we're going, okay, we're going away from this rock, we're going now, is what's happening.
No, we're not going, we just got here, and there may be answers to the questions that we've been asking for the last 24 hours. No answers, we're going.
Wait, Hugo, do you not even want to know what I think?
He's like, no, I want to leave. He's got his car keys in one hand, and he puts his...
Then you can go.
He's like, you gotta come with me, though. You gotta come.
No.
You gotta come on.
I don't, Hugo.
Give me a self-check.
49 under 60.
you're keeping it together because this is not the Hugo you know. He's never grabbed your arm with that much unconsidered force before. He's looking like he is panicking and hyperventilating.
It's also, the problem is it's getting really, really close to hitting my fear. Because I clearly don't want to go, but my fear is knuckling under to pressure. So he wants me to go, I don't want to go. If he keeps pushing the issue, there's going to be a collision there.
There absolutely is. He pulls your arm a little, and are you going to go along with it, or are you going to resist and pull back?
Oh no, I'm going to resist and pull back. I'm also, like, Hugo's strong, but I'm also strong. So I will absolutely resist.
And he looks down at his hand and he lets go, and he looks at his truck, and he just wordlessly goes and gets in the truck and drives away. And Barbara comes back and she's like, did we send him to get water? Because we're a little, we should have brought more water out here.
Yes, that's exact. You nailed it.
Give me a lie roll.
Oh, 54. Lie is... That's not going to work then.
And she just glares at you and she's like, just because I've been nice to you doesn't mean you can piss on my leg and tell me it's rain, okay? There's some really weird data happening here. And if you want me to try and explain weird facts to you and tell you what's happening, maybe, I don't know, let me throw this out there, we could have that go two ways where you tell me what's happening, what happened to Hugo.
Look, Barbara, he's freaked out by this whole thing. And he...
Freaked out? What do you mean, freaked out?
I don't know. He just wanted me to go with him. He didn't want to be here anymore, and I obviously want to be here and figure out the answers, and he doesn't want to be here anymore. He's upset about something. I don't know, but when I said I wouldn't go with him, he left.
Well, that's not the Hugo I know. But let me show you. And she kind of gestures for Carol and Janie and gives Quinn this look like, I suppose if you want to see it, you're permitted to as well. And brings up one of her maps. Do you remember me showing you a map of the region and it had little magnetic dots overlaid on it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So she shows you that and then points out a third place where there's more distortion. So she'd shown you this one before with 2 points on it, and she's like, yeah, we've now got a third. And the third point is, she's like, you could draw a circle and these 3 would be radians on it.
I see the pattern.
They're equidistant. Are you going to draw in the pattern?
I am.
So you get on the computer a little bit and you're like, so would it look something like this?
Funny how that works.
She's like, that's a strange coincidence. That can't be right. Let me get some more data. Is because the human brain is a pattern matching machine, and a lot of times we make false patterns. So there's a weather station near one of these interior interstices, and I'm sure that we're not going to get the distortion that would form the internal crossbars of that pentagram. Let me just look it up. And she like bolts to her car, which is your only vehicle out of here.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play the scenario Thunderhead Mesa for Unknown Armies 3rd edition, published by Atlas Games. Joining us as players in this series are none other than Aaron Hammonds and V from Queen's Court Games, with Greg Stolze as our Gamemaster. The music was made by Atrium Carceri and was used with permission from their label, Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We also used the official Unknown Armies soundtrack by James Semple with permission from Atlas Games. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, Julián, Camilla, Bob Lange, Julián, Cameron, Xabier, and Antxon for their generous support. And we would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult of Divinity Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember, you are the cultist.